A cold, metallic voice echoed through the darkened room as Sarah stared at the screen, her heart racing. Peace was never the goal. You were just a pawn in a game far bigger than you realize. The words hit Sarah like a freight train, freezing her in place. The voice was eerily familiar, though she couldn't place it, someone from her past. As the room around her shook, the door slammed shut, locking her inside, and the screens flashed with images of the galaxy at war. Pirates. Betrayal. Manipulation. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. The countdown had begun. If she didn't uncover the truth fast enough, not just humanity, but every sentient species, would be pulled into the chaos. And worse, someone close to her was pulling the strings. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with anticipation. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy gathered, their forms as diverse as the stars. Some had scales that shimmered in the dim light, others bore feathers, fur, or chitinous shells. The air crackled with energy, a mix of excitement and unease. In the center of the room, a towering holographic map displayed the known universe, with each member's territory highlighted. It was a reminder of the Council's power and the delicate balance it maintained. For centuries, the Council had acted as a beacon of peace, preventing wars that could annihilate entire civilizations. Today, a new member was joining, a species that many found peculiar and, frankly, a bit unsettling. Whispers rippled through the crowd as the human delegation entered. Unlike the other species, they had no scales, feathers, or claws. They were soft, fragile-looking, yet there was something in their eyes, a depth, a fire, that made others uneasy. At their lead was Sarah Connors, the chosen representative. She was calm but alert, her sharp gaze scanning the room as if she could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes upon her. Her companions followed closely, their expressions a mix of pride and caution. The Council's chairman, a regal creature with silvery feathers, raised a wing to silence the murmurs. "We gather today to welcome a new member to the Galactic Council," he announced, his voice resonant and authoritative. "Humanity, from the planet Earth." Sarah stepped forward, her heart steady despite the pressure. She knew this moment was critical. Humanity's future in the galaxy depended on what happened here. Before she could speak, a deep, growling voice cut through the air. "Why should we trust a species so new, so weak?" The room turned to see General Cothrall of the Jorkath, his massive frame casting a shadow that seemed to darken the very light in the chamber. His eyes, glowing faintly, were locked onto Sarah, filled with suspicion and disdain. Sarah met his gaze without flinching. She had prepared for this. Humanity had always been underestimated, and it was time to show why that was a mistake. "We may be new to this council," Sarah began, her voice steady, "but we are not new to conflict. We have known war, destruction, and loss. And it is because of this that we seek peace, not out of weakness, but out of strength." A murmur of surprise spread through the assembly. Sarah's words were simple, but the weight behind them was palpable. She continued, "We have learned that true strength lies not in how many enemies we can destroy, but in how many friends we can create." The chamber fell silent, the tension thick in the air. Sarah's words hung there, waiting to be challenged, waiting to be understood. General Cothrall narrowed his eyes. "Words are easy, human. But actions speak louder." Sarah nodded, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Then let our actions show you. Let us prove that humanity's way can be a path for all." The chairman interjected, sensing the need to steer the discussion. "We will hear more from the human delegation as the session continues. For now, let us welcome them to the council." The room erupted in a mix of applause and quiet murmurs, but Sarah's heart remained steady. This was just the beginning. She knew the road ahead would be filled with doubt and challenge, but she also knew that humanity had a story to tell, one of survival, resilience, and hope, and she was determined to tell it. As the applause faded, the tension in the room remained palpable. The Galactic Council was a place where peace had been maintained for centuries, but it was also a place where power dynamics were constantly in flux. The introduction of humanity, a species with a history of both remarkable ingenuity in devastating conflict, had stirred a mixture of curiosity and concern among the members. Sarah Connors returned to her seat, her calm demeanor masking the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. She could feel the eyes of the council members on her, some scrutinizing, others indifferent. She knew winning their trust would not be easy. Across the chamber, whispers began to circulate. A member of the Averii delegation, a tall, feathered figure with piercing black eyes, leaned towards their neighbor, a reptilian being from the Krelliks. Humans speak of peace, yet their history is riddled with war. Can they be trusted? The Krelliks representative hissed softly. Perhaps they have learned from their mistakes. Or perhaps they merely seek to deceive us. General Cothrol, still standing, was not one for whispers. His voice cut through the room once more. Peace. From a species that has nearly destroyed itself several times over. It is a wonder they even made it this far. Sarah turned to face him, her expression unyielding. General Cothrol, our history is indeed one of conflict, but it is also one of survival and growth. We have faced the brink of destruction and chosen to build, not destroy. A slender, crystalline being from the Solari, whose body shimmered with an inner light, spoke with a voice that resonated like a soft chime. Perhaps we should give them the chance to prove their intentions. Every species here has faced its own trials. Cothrol snorted, his disdain clear. Trials, yes. But have any faced such trials of their own making, time and again? The chairman raised a wing, calling for order. Enough. Humanity has been granted membership in this council. It is their actions moving forward that will determine their place among us. The room quieted once more, but the unease lingered. Sarah could feel the weight of their doubts, the challenge in their stares. She knew this was only the beginning of their scrutiny. As the session continued, a subtle alert echoed through the chamber, signaling the approach of a scheduled discussion topic. The chairman announced, next on the agenda, the ongoing crisis in the Halcyon sector. The rise of piracy and the instability it brings. Sarah's interest peaked. This was an opportunity. Humanity's presence could be more than just words, it could be action, demonstrating their commitment to peace and stability. She leaned towards her advisor, whispering, "Prepare our proposal. This is where we begin to show them who we are." The holographic map flickered to life again, and the room grew quieter. The chairman's voice echoed through the chamber, outlining the details of the crisis in the Halcyon sector. Pirate fleets had been raiding trade routes, destabilizing the entire region. Hundreds of thousands of civilians had been affected, and the Council's usual responses, diplomatic negotiations, peacekeeping forces, had failed to make any significant impact. This is not a situation we can ignore any longer, the chairman said gravely. We must act. Now. The room buzzed with suggestions. Some advocated for immediate military intervention, while others pushed for tighter sanctions. Sarah could feel the weight of their eyes on her, the question hanging in the air, what would humanity do? She stood up, her hands clasped behind her back. I propose a different solution, she began, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Humanity has always found success in solving problems by thinking outside the box. We have faced piracy before, but instead of increasing military pressure, we can address the root cause, desperation. A skeptical look crossed Cothrol's face. Desperation? You intend to negotiate with pirates? Sarah nodded. Yes. The pirates are not a unified force, they are scattered, each with their own reasons for turning to piracy. If we approach them with a chance at redemption, a choice to lay down their weapons for the opportunity to build a new life, we might stop this war without firing a single shot. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. General Cothrol growled lowly. Your words are naive. You think these criminals will listen to your offer? They are warriors, and they will only understand force. Sarah's gaze was unwavering. Sometimes, the strongest force is not violence, but understanding. Our species has learned that time and time again. She motioned for her team to activate a holographic projection of the Halcyon sector. The pirate fleets appeared as small, scattered groups, each occupying different regions of space. We will offer them a deal, an amnesty, the chance to start fresh, to leave their lives of violence behind. But only if they agree to cease their attacks and meet us at a neutral site for talks. A murmur of disbelief swept through the council. Some species, like the Averii, exchanged looks of uncertainty. But there was something in Sarah's voice, a quiet certainty that planted the seeds of doubt in their minds. Could it work? The chairman, sensing the growing division, nodded. We will allow humanity to take the lead on this initiative, but we will monitor the process closely. If it fails, we will take further action. Sarah bowed her head slightly. Thank you, Chairman. As she returned to her seat, the weight of the task ahead settled over her. This was no longer just a diplomatic mission, it was a test of humanity's very nature. Could they change the course of the galaxy without the sword? A week later, Sarah stood before the holographic map once again. This time, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The human delegation had been in constant communication with the pirates, sending envoys to meet with various pirate leaders and offering them the amnesty deal. Some had responded positively, but most had been wary, and a few had outright rejected the terms. Then, the worst possible news came. A fleet of heavily armed pirates, rejecting humanity's offer, had attacked a civilian convoy, killing thousands and sending a clear message: we will not be silenced. The message was broadcast across the council chambers, and the room erupted in disbelief and anger. Cothrell's voice thundered through the space. You see. You cannot reason with them. This is the reality of the galaxy. Violence is the only language they understand. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. This was a crisis, an outright failure on humanity's part. She could feel the judgment in the room. The stakes had never been higher. The chairman turned to her, his expression unreadable. What do you propose now, Representative Connors? Sarah's mind raced. There had to be a way forward. If she gave up now, humanity's reputation in the galaxy would be shattered. But she couldn't give in to the temptation of violence. That was not who they were. Not who she was. Taking a deep breath, she addressed the council, her voice more determined than ever. We will not give up. I understand the pirates' rejection. But we will find a way to reach them, all of them. We will not fight violence with violence. We will fight it with hope. Hope that there is a better life, a better way. Cothrell sneered. You speak of hope like it will save you. But I see a human who's too afraid to face reality. The room fell into an uneasy silence. But Sarah's gaze was steady, unyielding. She wasn't afraid, not anymore. Humanity had come too far to back down. As the council session closed for the day, Sarah returned to her quarters, her mind heavy with doubt. But there was something nagging at her, a gut feeling, an idea that she couldn't ignore. She called her team together for an emergency meeting. I've been thinking, Sarah said, pacing the room. What if the pirates attacking the convoy weren't just rejecting us? What if someone else is manipulating them? A murmur of confusion rippled through the room. What do you mean? One of her advisors asked. What if there's a third party, someone who benefits from keeping the conflict alive? Sarah's eyes lit up. What if this is all part of a plan to sabotage our peace effort? Her team fell silent. It made sense. Who else would want to destabilize the region, to turn the council against humanity's peaceful approach? We need to find out who's really behind this, Sarah said, determination flooding her voice. If we can expose them, we might still have a chance to make this work. The soft hum of the starship's engines was almost comforting, a steady rhythm that contrasted with the storm brewing in Sarah's mind. The mission had just begun, and already, she could sense the weight of what was at stake. If they were to uncover the truth behind the attacks and the conspiracy within the Galactic Council, they would have to move carefully, quietly. As Sarah stood before the holographic map of the Halcyon sector, her eyes traced the pirate-controlled systems. Most of the pirate fleets operated in the Outer Rim, where law enforcement was thin, and desperate, disenfranchised species found refuge. But there was something odd about this. The raids weren't just about profit or territory, they were orchestrated with precision. These pirates were organized, and Sarah suspected something larger was at play. Sarah, her trusted advisor, a human named Elias Grant, spoke softly, drawing her attention. He was a man of few words but always had a sharp insight. "We've had reports from the pirates. They're growing bolder, more coordinated. Something's off. We can't just keep sending envoys. We need intelligence." Sarah nodded, her mind already forming a plan. "We'll need a team. Not just diplomats, but people who can dig deep, who can navigate the underworld of this galaxy. We'll find out who's really pulling the strings." The door to the war room slid open, and in walked three individuals who would play a crucial role in this covert operation. First was Mara Keth, a Keltrix hacker with an unsettling reputation. Her species was known for their ability to infiltrate any system, and Mara Keth's skills were among the best. The Keltrix were often seen as a neutral party in the Council, but their dealings in the shadows were legendary. Her expression was cold, her silver eyes reflecting a knowledge of things she would rather leave undisturbed. "Sarah," Mara Keth greeted, her voice low but confident. "I've already begun looking into pirate comms and local systems. There's chatter about a new player in town, someone supplying them with advanced tech, more than what they should have access to. This isn't just about survival anymore." Next was Jax Lauren, an ex-pirate from the Vialna species who had defected years ago after a failed raid left him questioning his purpose. Tall and built like a warrior, his rugged features hid the burden of his past, and he had a dangerous edge. His role would be invaluable, no one knew pirates like Jax. "I know how they think," Jax said, leaning in slightly. "But this new faction? They're different. Organized. They're not just about looting, they're about making a statement. They have a purpose, and that's what we need to understand." Sarah turned to her final team member, Nira Thax, a Draxian diplomat with connections across the galaxy. While her species was known for their diplomatic finesse, Nira had an uncanny ability to read people and make powerful allies. Nira had also worked closely with several underworld figures before she joined the Council. "We can't just rush in," Nira cautioned, her sharp blue eyes scanning the room. "We need to play this carefully. We're in deep now. If we make a wrong move, they'll notice us." Sarah looked at her team, feeling a mix of resolve and unease. "We do this right, and we stop a war before it even starts. We'll move in silence, gather the information, and expose the ones behind this chaos." The team nodded, and with that, the mission began. Their first move was to track down a pirate cell that had been raiding trade routes for weeks. Mara Keth hacked into their communications, tracking their signals to a remote system at the edge of Council-controlled space. It was a dangerous place, a place where no one asked too many questions. As they entered the system, Jax's voice broke the silence. "This is where I grew up. Trust me, it's not going to be easy." Sarah gave him a brief, reassuring smile. "We don't need easy. We need answers." The pirate cell's base was located on a desolate moon, the remnants of an old mining colony. Its rocky surface was dotted with abandoned structures, now repurposed for pirate operations. The team approached cautiously, landing their ship in a hidden cove where the moon's craggy terrain could shield them from detection. "This place reeks of desperation," Jax muttered as they prepared to disembark. "But there's something else. They've been receiving shipments, advanced tech, weaponry. That's not pirate-grade stuff. Maraketh tapped at her wrist console. I've been tracing their communications. There's someone higher up, someone supplying them, but the trails go cold. It's like they're using a dead drop system, no direct connections. They made their way to the heart of the base, sneaking through corridors that reeked of cheap metal and desperation. The pirates here weren't the ruthless warriors they had expected. Most were just poor souls looking for a way out, willing to follow anyone with power. But there was a sense of unease in the air, a tension that spoke to something far darker. Suddenly, Nira paused. Wait, something's wrong. Before anyone could respond, the door at the end of the hallway opened, and several armed pirates stepped into view, their eyes scanning the group. We were expecting you, one of them sneered, the voice too calm for comfort. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. They had been set up. As the pirates closed in, Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't just a setup, it was a message. Someone knew they were coming. But who? Then, amidst the chaos of their capture, Sarah heard something that stopped her cold. You think you can stop it? The pirate leader laughed, his eyes cold and filled with malice. Your family was part of the deal. You're just the last piece in a long game. We've been playing you all along. The words hit Sarah like a slap in the face. Her family. She had always known her past wasn't perfect, but to hear that they had been involved in this, her heart sank. I don't understand, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling despite herself. What do you mean? The pirate leader's smirk widened. You're the daughter of the one who sold out the first peace treaty. Your parents paved the way for this. You're the final piece, just like them. Her mind spun. Her parents? Involved in this? It didn't make sense. They had always claimed to support peace, but, what if there was more to the story?